Listen, I need to tell you something about humans, and trust me when I say this, they are absolutely, categorically, monumentally insane. My name is Vorkath. I am a senior combat instructor for the Galactic Defense Coalition, and I have trained warriors from 73 different species over my 216 years of service. I have seen courage. I have seen cowardice. I have seen discipline that would make a statue weep with envy, and I have seen chaos that would embarrass a supernova. But humans? Humans are something else entirely. Let me set the scene for you, because context matters here, and you need to understand exactly how this situation spiraled from a routine training exercise into the most ridiculous, terrifying, and oddly inspiring disaster I have ever witnessed in my entire career. It was day 7 of Advanced Tactical Operations. My current class consisted of 42 recruits from 9 different worlds. We had the Krell, obviously, because you cannot run a proper military program without those rock-headed brutes who follow orders like breathing. We had 6 Yolani, those floating jellyfish types who are brilliant with technology but tend to panic when someone raises their voice. 3 Dravoni snake people, all siblings apparently, who kept hissing at each other during drills. A pair of moth-car insectoids who clicked incessantly but performed adequately. 17 Zephians, those blue-skinned perfectionists who treat every exercise like an exam they desperately need to pass. And then we had the humans. 5 of them. Marcus was the unofficial leader. Tall, dark hair, stupidly confident smile that never quite left his face even when he was being reprimanded. Priya was the tactical genius, always 3 steps ahead, always questioning the parameters of every drill. Tommy was the joker, could not go 15 minutes without cracking some comment that made absolutely no sense to anyone except the other humans. Vikram was quiet, observant, the kind who said nothing for hours and then offered a solution so obvious you felt like an idiot for missing it. And then there was Elena, who was possibly the most dangerous one because she looked innocent, spoke softly, and had a mind that worked like a weapons system on overdrive. The exercise was simple. Painfully simple. I had run this exact scenario 4,000 times with different groups. The setup: infiltrate a hostile station, extract sensitive data, exit without detection. Standard stealth operation. The kind of thing every soldier in the coalition needs to master before they see real combat. The rules were explicit. Crystal clear. I had repeated them 6 times in 3 different languages just to be absolutely certain everyone understood. Rule 1, maintain communication silence unless absolutely critical. Rule 2, follow the designated route through sectors Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Rule 3, avoid all contact with simulated hostiles. Rule 4, extract within the 40-minute time window. Simple, yes. Any child could grasp these parameters. A trained monkey could probably figure it out with enough treats and patience. I should have known something was wrong when Marcus raised his hand before we even started. Instructor Vorkath, he said, that smile already creeping across his face. What is it, Recruit Marcus? I asked, my secondary eyes already beginning to twitch in anticipation of whatever nonsense was about to emerge from his mouth. Just to clarify, sir. When you say communication silence, do you mean no talking at all, or just no unnecessary chatter? I stared at him. The entire class stared at him. Even Tommy looked confused by the question. I mean, I said slowly, deliberately, the way you might explain basic physics to a particularly dense asteroid, that you maintain silence. You do not speak. You do not transmit. You move quietly and extract the data. This is not complicated. Right, Marcus nodded enthusiastically. But what if we encounter a situation that requires verbal coordination? Like, hypothetically speaking, if the route is compromised and we need to adapt. Then you use the hand signals that we have practiced for 6 days, I replied, my patience already wearing thinner than a neutron star's atmosphere. The ones that every military organization in the known galaxy has used for approximately 8,000 years. Those hand signals. Got it. Hand signals. Perfect. Marcus sat back down. I should have ejected him from the program right then. Looking back now, with the beautiful clarity that hindsight provides, I realize that was the moment. That was the warning sign. The universe was practically screaming at me to remove this human from the equation before he could infect the others with whatever particular brand of madness he carried. But I did not. Because I am a professional. Because I have standards. Because I genuinely believe that even humans could follow 4 simple rules for 40 minutes. Oh, how gloriously, spectacularly wrong I was. The exercise began at 0800 hours sharp. I monitored from the observation deck, watching 42 recruits split into their assigned teams and move toward the entry points of the simulation station. Standard procedure. Everything looked normal. Everything looked fine. The Krell moved like a fortress, slow and steady and utterly predictable. The Yolani drifted through the corridors with their usual nervous grace. The Zephians advanced in perfect formation, textbook execution of every principle I had taught them. Even the Dravoni siblings had stopped hissing at each other long enough to focus on the mission. And the humans? For the first 7 minutes, the humans were actually doing well. Shockingly well. They moved efficiently, used proper cover, maintained absolute silence. I actually felt a small flutter of pride, which should have been my second warning sign because pride always comes before something explodes in your face. They reached the first checkpoint in Sector Alpha ahead of schedule. Marcus led them through the corridor while Priya monitored the security patterns. Tommy and Vikram covered the flanks. Elena handled the electronic countermeasures. It was textbook. It was beautiful. It was exactly what I had trained them to do. And then they encountered the locked door. Now, this door was part of the exercise. Every team would encounter it. The solution was printed in the training manual on page 47, subsection 12, paragraph 3. You bypass the electronic lock using the standard military override code that every recruit learns in their first week. Takes approximately 30 seconds. Completely routine. Marcus tried the override code. The door remained locked. He tried again. Still locked. This was intentional, by the way. The door required the backup override, which was also in the manual, page 48, specifically because I wanted to test whether recruits could solve minor problems without panicking. I watched Marcus turn to his team. They gathered in a small circle. No words were spoken. Excellent. They were maintaining communication silence. Marcus made several hand signals. Priya responded with her own signals. Everything was proceeding correctly. Then Tommy pointed at the door, then at his weapon, then made a gesture that I am approximately 60% certain was not in any official military manual. Marcus looked at the door. Looked at Tommy. Looked back at the door. Then, and I want you to really appreciate this moment, he shook his head no. Tommy made the gesture again, more emphatically this time. Marcus shook his head again. Elena tapped Marcus on the shoulder and made her own series of hand signals. Whatever she communicated made Marcus pause. He tilted his head, considering. Then he made a gesture that I definitely recognized from the manual. It meant, hold position. Good, I muttered to myself in the observation deck. They are working through the problem. They will figure it out. Priya moved to the door panel and began examining it more closely. She pulled out her tools. Started working on the physical mechanism. This was taking longer than the standard solution, but it was still acceptable. Still within parameters. Still following the rules. And then Marcus raised his communicator. My 3 hearts simultaneously skipped multiple beats. No, I whispered. Do not do it. Do not break communication silence for a simple locked door. But he did it anyway. He activated his communicator. And he spoke. Instructor Vorkath, his voice crackled through my headset. I closed all 4 of my eyes and prayed to 7 different deities that I did not actually believe in. "Recruit Marcus," I replied, my voice colder than the vacuum of space. "You are breaking communication silence." "Yes, sir, I am aware, sir. I need clarification on the rules." "The rules," I said, each word carefully measured to avoid screaming, "are that you maintain communication silence and complete the objective." "What part of this requires clarification?" "Well, sir, the thing is, we have encountered a locked door. The standard override is not working. The backup override is also not working. We believe the door mechanism is malfunctioning." "Then you bypass it using alternative methods," I said. "Priya has the tools. You have the training. Figure it out." There was a pause. A very long pause. The kind of pause that makes you deeply uncomfortable because you know something terrible is being considered on the other end. "Sir, I want to confirm something. The rules state we should avoid contact with simulated hostiles, correct?" "Correct. And we should follow the designated route through the sectors." "Also correct. But the rules do not specifically prohibit property damage to simulated station infrastructure, do they, sir?" Every single one of my alarm instincts activated simultaneously. Warning klaxons blared in my mind. Danger lights flashed. My survival reflexes screamed at me to evacuate the entire facility immediately. "Recruit Marcus," I said very carefully. "What exactly are you planning?" "Just seeking clarification, sir. If the door is malfunctioning, and the designated route requires us to go through this door, and we cannot bypass it using conventional methods, would it be against the rules to breach the door using unconventional methods?" "What kind of unconventional methods?" Another pause. Longer this time. In the video feed, I could see the 5 humans huddled together. Tommy was grinning. Elena was doing calculations on her datapad. Vikram was examining the wall structure around the door. Priya was shaking her head but also smiling. This was bad. This was very bad. "Explosives, sir." "Absolutely not," I roared into the communicator. "You will not use explosives on a training exercise door. You will not destroy station property. You will sit there and figure out the bypass like every other team who has encountered this exact same door." "Understood, sir. Just wanted clarification." "Marcus out." The communicator went silent. I sagged in my observation chair, relief flooding through me. Crisis averted. The humans would now solve the problem properly. Everything would proceed normally. Oh, you sweet, naive past version of myself. If only you knew what was coming. Because exactly 45 seconds after that conversation ended, the door exploded. Not with explosives, mind you. That would have violated my direct order. No, these magnificent idiots had done something infinitely more creative and infinitely more terrifying. They had overloaded the electronic lock system by feeding it a continuous loop of conflicting override codes until the capacitor bank overheated and detonated. The door did not just open. It launched itself 15 meters down the corridor like a missile, trailing smoke and sparks and the shattered remnants of my sanity. Alarms began blaring throughout the simulation station. Emergency protocols activated. 16 different systems registered critical failures. 3 sectors automatically locked down. The station AI started evacuation procedures. And through it all, clear as day on the video feed, I could see Marcus turn to his team and give a thumbs-up gesture. Then they proceeded through the smoking doorway and continued the exercise as if absolutely nothing unusual had happened. I sat there, in my observation chair, surrounded by flashing warning lights and the smell of burning electronics, and I realized something profound. I realized that I had made a terrible mistake. Not in this moment, but years ago, when someone had first suggested including humans in the coalition military training program. Because humans do not just think outside the box. They do not just bend the rules. They do not just find creative solutions. Humans look at the box, look at the rules, look at the entire established framework of galactic military doctrine, and they say, that is nice, but what if we set it on fire instead? And somehow, impossibly, it works. The situation, as military analysts like to say with tremendous understatement, had escalated. I sat there in my observation deck, surrounded by flashing red lights and the acrid smell of fried circuitry, watching 5 humans casually stroll through the wreckage they had created like they were taking a pleasant walk through a botanical garden. My primary brain was trying to process what had just happened. My secondary brain was attempting to formulate an appropriate response. My tertiary brain, the one responsible for survival instincts, was screaming at me to run very far away and never look back. I activated my communicator again. Professional standards demanded I address this disaster immediately. Recruit Marcus, this is Instructor Vorkath. You just destroyed a door. Yes sir, Marcus replied cheerfully, not even breathing hard as his team moved through Sector Beta. The lock was malfunctioning. We improvised a solution. You blew up a door during a stealth exercise. Technically sir, we overloaded the security system. Very different from explosives. You were quite clear about the explosives prohibition. I felt something pop in my left eye stalk. Possibly a blood vessel. Possibly my will to live. The point, I said through clenched mandibles, of a stealth exercise is to remain undetected. Every hostile in a 12-sector radius now knows your exact location. The station is in emergency lockdown. You have failed the exercise. With respect sir, and here Marcus actually had the audacity to sound thoughtful, the exercise parameters stated we should avoid contact with simulated hostiles. We have not made contact with any hostiles. They know something exploded. They do not know who did it. Technically, we are still undetected as individuals. My translator implant momentarily considered shutting down rather than process that particular logic. Marcus, I can see 17 security teams converging on your location right now. Yes sir. We are aware. Priya is monitoring their approach patterns. Then you realize you are about to fail catastrophically. We will see, sir. Marcus out. The communicator went dead again. I pulled up the tactical display, watching the security teams close in from 3 different directions. Standard response pattern for a breach situation. The humans were boxed in with nowhere to go. They had maybe 90 seconds before contact was inevitable. This, I thought, would be the lesson. This would be the moment when human arrogance met reality and reality won decisively. They would be tagged by the simulation weapons, registered as casualties, and fail the exercise. Then I could spend the next 6 hours lecturing them about following orders and respecting established protocols. Except that is not what happened. Not even close. Elena, the quiet one, pulled out what looked like a standard communications jammer. But she did something to it, some modification I could not quite see on the video feed. Then she tossed it down the corridor behind them. 3 seconds later, every electronic system in Sector Beta crashed simultaneously. Lights went out. Security cameras died. The automated defense grid flatlined. Communications went dark. Even my own observation feeds from that sector turned to static. What in the name of all the ancient gods did she just do? I muttered, frantically trying to restore my monitoring capabilities. My assistant, a young Zephian named Talus who had been silently observing this entire disaster, finally spoke up. Sir, I believe the human female just created an electromagnetic pulse using a modified communications device. That is not possible. Those devices do not have sufficient power capacity. Apparently, sir, the humans did not receive that particular memo. I managed to restore partial feeds from adjacent sectors just in time to see the security team stumble into Sector Beta, their equipment malfunctioning, their coordination completely shattered. They were trained soldiers, but they were trained to fight with working gear. Without their sensors, without their communications, without their weapons systems, they were essentially blind and deaf. And the humans slipped past them in the darkness like ghosts. Unbelievable, Talus whispered. They actually pulled it off. Do not sound impressed, I snapped. They violated approximately 47 different protocols and caused enough damage to keep repair crews busy for a week. Yes, sir. But they are still in the exercise. He was right, curse him. Despite everything, despite the exploded door and the electromagnetic pulse and the complete chaos they had unleashed, the humans were still advancing toward the objective. They had not been detected. They had not made contact with hostiles. They were, by the absolute most technical interpretation of the rules, still succeeding. I watched them enter Sector Gamma. This was the final stretch. The data core was located in the central chamber, protected by the most sophisticated security in the simulation. Every other team had approached this section with extreme caution, carefully timing their movements to avoid the sensor sweeps and patrol patterns. The humans charged straight through the main entrance. Not walked. Not crept. Charged. Like they were storming a hostile position with full support. Alarms erupted immediately. Every defense system in Sector Gamma activated at once. Automated turrets deployed. Energy barriers snapped into place. Security doors sealed. 20 simulated guards converged on their position. Finally, I said, leaning forward in my chair. Finally, they are done. There is no way out of this. They are completely surrounded. Tommy pulled out what appeared to be a smoke grenade. Standard issue. Completely harmless. Used for providing visual cover in training exercises. Except when he triggered it, the smoke that billowed out was not normal training smoke. It was thick, black, and spread with unnatural speed, filling the entire chamber in seconds. Worse, it seemed to interfere with the simulation sensors. The automated systems went haywire, targeting systems locking onto phantom readings, turrets spinning wildly, trying to acquire targets that did not exist. What did they do to those grenades? I demanded. Talus was frantically checking his datapad. Sir, according to the equipment logs, those are standard smoke grenades. Completely unmodified. That is not standard smoke. No sir, it is not. I believe they mixed something with the smoke compound. Chemical analysis shows traces of metallic particles. It is creating false sensor readings. How did they even get access to metallic particles? Talus hesitated. Sir, the recycling processors in the barracks do handle various materials. Are you telling me they raided the recycling facility to build improvised countermeasures? It appears so, sir. Through the chaos of smoke and malfunctioning sensors, I caught glimpses of the humans moving. They were not running blindly. They were navigating through the confusion with purpose. Priya was leading them using some kind of handheld device I did not recognize. They weaved between the security teams, avoided the automated defenses, and reached the data core in the center of the chamber. Vikram, who had been silent and unremarkable for the entire exercise, suddenly became the most important person in the room. He approached the data core terminal, examined it for approximately 5 seconds, and then did something I have never seen any recruit do in all my years of training. He did not hack it. He did not bypass it. He did not use any of the sophisticated infiltration techniques we had spent weeks teaching them. He unplugged it from the main power grid and plugged in a portable battery pack. The entire security system shut down instantly. The data core, now running on isolated power, became accessible without any of the normal security protocols because those protocols required connection to the main station network. It was brilliant. It was infuriating. It was the kind of solution so simple and so obvious that nobody had ever thought to try it because it should not work. But it did work. Because humans apparently operate in a reality where the impossible is just mildly inconvenient. Elena accessed the data core, downloaded the required files, and disconnected the battery pack. The security system attempted to reboot. The smoke was beginning to clear. Security teams were regaining their coordination. And Marcus, looking at his chronometer, smiled and activated his communicator one final time. Instructor Vorkath, this is Recruit Marcus. Objective complete. Data extracted. Requesting permission to exfiltrate through the emergency access tunnels. There are no emergency access tunnels in the designated route, I replied automatically. No sir, but the station schematics show maintenance tunnels running beneath Sector Gamma. They connect directly to the exterior docking area. Much faster than backtracking through sectors Beta and Alpha. Those tunnels are not part of the exercise parameters. The parameters said to extract the data and exit the station, sir. They did not specify which exit to use. I looked at Talus. Talus looked at me. We both looked at the rulebook sitting on my desk. Marcus was technically correct. The parameters had not specified the exact exit route. Fine, I said, defeat heavy in my voice. Use the maintenance tunnels. Just get out of my simulation station before you destroy anything else. Understood, sir. We will be gentle. Marcus out. They disappeared into the maintenance access, and I watched them emerge at the exterior docking bay exactly 37 minutes and 42 seconds after the exercise began. Well within the 40-minute time limit. With the objective complete. Without a single member being tagged as a casualty. By every measurable metric, they had succeeded. By every reasonable standard, they had created absolute chaos. I called for a full debrief in the main conference room 30 minutes later. All 42 recruits assembled, standing at attention. The other teams looked tired but satisfied with their performances. Most had completed the exercise successfully using proper protocols. The humans looked like they had just returned from a casual jog. Marcus was still smiling. Elena was reviewing data on her pad. Tommy was trying not to laugh. Priya looked thoughtful. Vikram remained his usual quiet self. I stood before them, all four of my arms crossed, and stared at the humans for a long moment. Recruit Marcus, step forward. He did, maintaining perfect military posture despite that infernal smile. You destroyed a door, crashed an entire sector's electronics, modified training equipment without authorization, improvised weapons from recycling materials, ignored the designated route, and caused approximately 40,000 credits worth of damage to simulation equipment. Yes, sir. You also completed the objective in under 40 minutes, maintained 0 casualties, and technically did not violate any of the 4 rules I specified at the beginning of the exercise. Yes, sir. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I saw something I had seen in the eyes of every great warrior I had ever trained. Creativity. Adaptability. The ability to see beyond the obvious and find solutions where none should exist. It was terrifying. It was inspiring. It was quintessentially human. The entire point of this exercise, I said slowly, is to teach tactical thinking. To encourage problem-solving under pressure. To prepare soldiers for situations where the standard approach will not work. Yes, sir. You certainly demonstrated all of those qualities. I paused. In the most destructive, rule-bending, technically compliant but spiritually offensive way possible. Thank you, sir. That was not a compliment. Understood, sir. The entire room was silent. Every recruit was watching this exchange, wondering what would happen next. Would I expel the humans from the program? Would I punish them? Would I finally snap and retire to a quiet agricultural world somewhere far from human influence? I sighed, a long rattling sound that came from all 3 of my respiratory systems. You passed the exercise. All 5 of you. With the highest tactical effectiveness rating I have ever recorded. Marcus blinked, surprised. The other humans exchanged glances. However, I continued, you will also be assigned to repair duty for the next month. You will personally fix every system you damaged. You will restore the door you destroyed. You will recalibrate every sensor you scrambled. And you will do it all while maintaining your normal training schedule. Yes, sir. Fair enough, sir. And Marcus? One more thing. Sir. The next time you need clarification on the rules, try reading the manual first. It really does contain all the answers. Will do, sir. I dismissed the class and watched them file out. The humans walked together, already laughing and replaying their adventure. The other recruits gave them a wide berth, looking at them with a mixture of awe and concern. Talus approached my desk. Sir, if I may ask, why did you pass them? They caused enormous damage and violated the spirit of every protocol we teach. Because, Talus, in a real combat situation, the enemy does not care about protocols. They do not care about the proper way to do things. They care about winning. And humans, for all their chaos and rule-bending and absolutely insane decision-making, have a gift for winning. But surely there must be limits to what we allow. Oh, there are limits. Many limits. And I will spend the rest of this training cycle teaching them where those limits are. I paused, watching the humans disappear around the corner. But first, they need to understand that their creativity is valuable. That their ability to think differently is an asset. Once they understand that, then we can refine it into something truly formidable. Talus nodded slowly. So you are saying the humans are teachable? No. I am saying the humans are inevitable. We can either learn to work with that, or we can get out of their way. I picked up the damage report, winced at the final cost, and added, personally, I am choosing to work with it. Mostly because I am too old to find a new career. That evening, I filed my official report on the exercise. I noted the successful completion by Team 5, the tactical innovations employed, and the significant property damage incurred. I recommended the humans continue in the program with additional oversight. And then, in the private section of the report that only goes to senior command, I added one final note. The humans are ready for advanced training. They are creative, adaptable, and dangerously effective. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. They do not respect the established rules of warfare. This makes them either the greatest asset we have ever recruited, or the greatest liability. I suspect it might be both simultaneously. Recommend we continue their training but assign additional instructors. I cannot handle them alone. Nobody should have to handle them alone. Send reinforcements. Please. I submitted the report and leaned back in my chair, already dreading the next exercise. Because if the humans could turn a simple stealth mission into that level of chaos, I could only imagine what they would do when I gave them actual weapons and real objectives. Somewhere in the distance, I heard laughter. Human laughter. The sound of 5 individuals who had absolutely no idea how much they had just changed everything. And despite my frustration, despite the property damage, despite the sheer insanity of the entire situation, I found myself smiling. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But I did. And it was going to be magnificent. Or it was going to be a complete disaster. Probably both. Definitely both. Welcome to training humans. May the God have mercy on us all.